Hi guys, this is Ala 13 Coca-Cola and I will love to show you what is going on behind the scenes of the plane of the Boeing B247D to try to understand what I'm trying to achieve through these modifications. In the meantime, obviously that there is a final fix for the plane. Okay, I have a program that allows me to read which local variables are used in the plane. So how it works is every time a variable is declared, it writes it down, basically. And this is the list of all the local variables that the plane uses. Okay. And there are a few that interest us. We're going to see them again and again when we look at the files on the plane. If I make a search here of the word oil, you will see that we have the first one called tap oil temperature. The tap oil temperature regulates when you tap on the particular indicator and the needle works, wobbles a little. So this is not relevant. It's just a quirky thing that the simulator has, the plane has. Tap oil pressure. Lever oil shooter 1. This is another local variable. So the plane monitors the levers for the oil shutters independently the simulator. So it's not telling the simulator is opening the oil shutters. It controls itself. That's one of the local vars we're going to look at. The other one is obviously the number 2 shutter. This is the tap tick oil temperature 1. This is the type oil temperature pressure 1. This one is just telling the system if the lever is moving or not. It's not relevant from us. It's just for the detect movement, therefore activates. It's just the status what it matters. This one is important. Needle oil temperature 1 and needle oil temperature 2. We're going to look at all this because it's the only indication that what the system is doing. It reads something and passes that information to the needle on the indicator on the plane. So it doesn't use, or at least that's my belief now, it doesn't use the variables in the sim about the oil temperature. We're going to look at it as well, and we're going to monitor what they do in a flight. The needle oil pressure as well, we're going to look at it because it's independent as well, 1 and 2. And this is not important, is the type of oil selected. Yep, bottom oil not, oil top up. This is variables that control how filled the deposits are and if you're filling them. So that's not relevant at the moment. And this is something to do with the clipboard. Oil pan left, oil pan right. I think that's to do with, not relevant at the moment. And the oil temperature unit Celsius. Okay. I tried to read this in the past to not avail. So I think this is true or false, I think. Because it's to do with the units, not with the temperature measure. So we're going to look at some of these variables in a minute, because if we open now the where the plane is installed, let's go to the folder. You may have it in a slightly different place as me, because I have everything very tidy. This is the folder that contains all the information about the plane. The content info is just the thumbnail. The data is to do with the images in the clipboard and with the types of fonts it uses. Doesn't have anything more relevant to do with what we are dealing here. Documentation is all the PDFs and stuff. Material lives is how the plane is built, so it has the general textures and stuff. Sorry. I'm going to skip this one because this is the relevant one. Sim objects. It has information about how the system interacts with the simulator. This is relevant, but not that much, and also has these files FLT that you can open in with a notepad. There's readable that tells you the status in several occasions when you launch the plane. That is not relevant for us now, but maybe for me in the future. So how it's going to be in the approach, how it's going to be the cameras and everything. Here also you have folders for effects, sound, texture, and everything. And in the panel 1, you have these two WASM, which is a type of compression when you are creating programming and stuff that I cannot read. And I think the core of the trip-o-tronic system that this plane uses is built in this file that I cannot read, because when I open the panel CFG, it refers to some point that I think is inside this, and it's the prop-o-tronic here, so it launches something here. So probably what those variables are reading is built within that file that I cannot open. Anyway, but we're going to see not what these variables read, but we're going to see how this information is fed into the computer, into the plane. Here is sound, and there's the textures, so nothing relevant here. Okay, let's go back to this, and model behavior is where everything that matters is. In the model behavior, we have some templates and XML form, thanks God, so I can read it, that help us to read what everything does. Okay, the only file in which I found there is information about how this information is fed into the cockpit is here in the instruments XML. I made a copy. This is the original instruments XML, and this is mine modified. I have a copy elsewhere, so I'm going to delete it and revert to the original file. I'm going to look at it right now. Okay, I'm going to rename it. Well, I didn't need to do that, but it's fine. Instruments.xml, and let's open it. I open it 100 times. It's going to be in my notepad in several. Okay, let's close everything. Everything I was testing. Sorry, I don't know which one I opened, so I'm going to open it again if you don't mind. Okay, this is the file. So that controls the behavior. And notice one thing. When some particular information is not fed, what is tell you here in this line 16 is that there's a relative file, subtemplates instrument XML. It's another file called also instrument XML that you may use in conjunction with this one. It will be relevant in a second. Okay, so notice that what it does is the default, okay, it makes a template for every instrument. For example, instruments RPM. If we click in this, we can close it down because this is not relevant for us. So we're going to do for all the instruments that we don't need. Instrument manifold pressure, this works fine, so we're not going to look at it. Instrument ASA, no problem. VSI, no problem. Altimeter, no problem. TB, I don't know what it is now. TB, my mind is blank, but we don't need it. Turn and ball, I think. The DG, no idea. It's a needle DG, whatever. No needed now. AH, no needed. Whiskey compass, no needed. Outside temperature, it has a scale. It transforms it from, I think it's from Fahrenheit to, or to Celsius to Fahrenheit or something. This is the scale. That is the external temperature. And it reads a local var. We could try to read it as well and see if it matches, but it's not needed. I will explain why it's not. Okay, we'll close it. Instrument oil temperature. So what it does here is how the information, so the system, the plane already has this information, okay? It's taking this information from somewhere on the plane and it's feeding it to the needle, okay? So what it does is takes this needle oil temperature we saw before, this is the name, and what it does is gives some animation length, 110, which is surprising. This is the first thing that surprises me because the clock itself moves from 0 to 220, sorry, 210. So, or 200, sorry, from 0 to 200. So anim length, if you look, for example, at the oil pressure, which we have here, the max, the min is 0 to 130 and the animation length is 130. Actually, I checked, the clock goes from 0 to 120. So it gives like, it allows the needle to go a bit beyond the top, okay? But this one actually points a bit more than the middle, which is the first thing to surprise me. And then I see this, that's the scale. I'm going to show you what it does later on. These two first numbers, 1.8 multiplied, this is reverse Polish notation. So what it does is, whatever the figure you have initial, for example, you have a 2. So this 2, you multiplied it for 1.8, the operation symbol goes after the number, and then you add 32, and then you do something with this 0.5 that is not seen here what the operation is, because this is going to be inserted in a formula. I'm going to show you in a minute. So this is the scale, this is the offset, which in this case is 0. That means that the offset, I think, is how much, well, this is a var, this is just a bar. We're going to see what it does with it, but it's add that information to the needle. And it's the minimum and max. So it doesn't tell you here what it does with this information, okay? Because this is just for the glass and the reflection, the emissive for the lights. So this is not relevant for us, and this is not relevant for us, and this is not relevant for us. I'm going to let it open so I don't get confused, but this is not relevant for us. And what it tells us is, with all this data, go to Wing Instrument and use that template. So I'm going to open that folder, which is actually, if you open Container Folder Explorer, you see subtemplates. It tells me here that this is using conjunction with subtemplates / instruments XML. So if we go to instruments subtemplates, we have another one here called instruments. We open it again. So this works in conjunction. So what it does is take all this data and use this template, Wing42 instrument, to operate them. So we go to Wing42 instrument, which is here. I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. Instrument, and look what it does. Forget about this, this is the parameters by default. This is overwritten by these parameters. So take all that parameters and do this. L ... and this is the name, L ... needle oil temperature, bar unit, which is a number, I know that because I read the thing. Oh, I think it says here somewhere. It does, but it's a number, I'm telling you. Then insert here a scale and multiply it. So is take this original number, this variable you're reading from somewhere, and do this. Multiply it by 1.2, add 32, and then this 0.5, multiply for it. So it's a bit weird because what it does is takes this number, which that's why I believe is something to do with Celsius temperature, and apply a formula that is usually to transform Celsius into Fahrenheit, which is multiplied by 1.8 and then add 32, and then halve it. Why halving it? Why halving it? If it is degrees, you will end with a Fahrenheit figure. But anyway, let's carry on. Then add the offset, which in our case is 0 as we saw before, and then don't allow a maximum and minimum is this. The the maximum is the minimum, and the I don't know how this works, but I assume this is setting a minimum and a maximum. Okay. So this is the first step in my, thinking about what is going on here. Let's look something else. So in order to read those variables in the simulator, I'm going to use a software called Axis and OS that connects with the simulator and allow me to do several things. Among them, create an interface or a screen in which I can see live what these variables are indicating, or what the value of these variables is. I have created this tester for the needle oil one. As you can see, the local, this L represents a local var. So L needle oil temperature 1 is a number, as I said, and this is just the way I want this to express, which is with three figures, a dot and another 3, it's a floating number, and then needle oil temperature 2, and this is just the label in which tells me what reading it is. I also have this A represent the aircraft, which, so this is the sim variable, the variable, the simulator, inside the simulator, engine oil temperature 1 in Celsius, because this number, as you will see in a minute, is in Celsius as well. I could put it in Fahrenheit, but it's just to see they compare the two of them. And this is the engine oil temperature 2. I'm going to do another one like this one for the pressure. I'm at the moment writing the code for the local oil pressure, and I know that what it reads is a number, but if you look at the instrument formula here, you will notice that the scales goes from 0 to 130, which is PSI, pounds per square inch, and it has a scale of 0, that number. So this number is multiplied to the figure. This probably is, I mean, I haven't checked the formula, is giving it maybe in PSF as the simulator, but what we know is this is a conversion. It converts it to so we're going to do that. I'm going to multiply this number for this, as I said, inverted, in order to create, I mean, the exact number is feeding it to the indicator on the plane. And because I believe it's in PSI, I will do the same for the, I was checking how to convert PSC to PF is divided by 144, which I assume is more or less what I'm doing. On 3, I don't see the 1, 4. Anyway, what I'm going to do is engine oil pressure. This is the simulator, var, the A var, and it's in PSF, and we have to transform it into, yeah, but it's a simple procedure. Probably if I tell the computer I wanted the PCI, it will give it directly, but I'm going to check if it is doable. Okay, because if we go, this is, I think this is if you don't express what you want it for. So let's do PSI. If we go to the SDK and look at what it is, somewhere, units, pressure, area, temperature, angles. They usually you can select how do you want the information. Wait, frequency, density, pressure. We can get in, it's in PSI, pounds per square inch, I think. PSC. value. They give you different formula. Only usually used when dealing with engine oil pressure. This is the PSE value scaled using the formula 55 plus the value. So let's try this one. And see what, because I can't remember what is used in the simulator. Anyway, I'm going to try to sort it out offside camera, and when I have it all working, I will show you, because what I'm going to do is try to get the exact unit in both sides. I'll see you in a second. I have the plane already loaded. Let's go to Asturias Airport. And we're going to load it and see how the temperature and everything behaves. For that, I'm going to open Lorbe. And I'm going to load the needle oil 1, engine temperature 1, needle oil 2, engine temperature 2, and I'm going also to load the new created pressure tester. I don't think it was going to work correctly, but we'll see in a minute. Otherwise, I will do the changes needed. So in the left, we have the needle is what the simulator is reading. Sorry, in the left is what the plane is being fed, which again, I don't know where this feed is coming from. And in the right is what the simulator is using, the variable the simulator has within its score. Okay, let's go and see it in a second. Well, I changed the formula a little. So what I ended up with is engine oil pressure 1 PSF, and then a multiplication for this number, which is the conversion to PSI. And I did it in both for the engine 1 and engine 2. At the moment, without entering it in the plane, you can see I already have a figure in the needle oil 1 of 3.7373. This is Celsius, and engine 1 temperature is 16, which I think this matches the outside temperature. We're going to see it in a minute. And the needle pressure 1, which is what is fitted in the simulator, sorry, in the plane, is this one, and the general is 0. Let's get into the flight and see if this figure changes. Okay. The pressure now is 130. And look how it's going down, 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 down to 0. The simulator does has a fixed figure of 0 in the pressure and a 0 in the, and 15, so 16 degrees. 16 degrees 978, and the outside temperature is 62 Fahrenheit. If we convert 62 Fahrenheit into the I have the formula here. So if we get 62, it will give us approximately, if this is correct, 16 degrees. 16.66, probably 61 instead of 62. 16, around this figure. Okay, so this matches the outside temperature, which is expected, and you will see that the needle oil 1 and the needle oil 2, the temperature of the oil in Celsius matches, or is going to increase slowly until it matches the engine temperature here. As I said, I reverted to the original file, and now the oil has the minimum as in 0, because it's reading just this figure and halving it. So according to this, now the exterior temperature is 4 degrees. So the oil is not, it doesn't have any reading. But it's going to increase a little, just a little, to match 15. So it should be around, not to 15, to be 7. So it should be, it's increasing, no, it's not increasing. Why is not increasing? Did I put the file back? I have a change in the name. Right. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the oil pressure. Yes, it's getting here. So it's going to match the outside temperature, but it's going to be half because of the 0.5. So let's see where that it stops after a while. I know, I understand now why it is halved. Okay, now I started to understand things. They halved this figure because the maximum is 110. So there is something I don't understand. If the maximum is 110, they halve it because this is going to be read twice. I mean, this is going to move only in this arc. So according to that, it will read the real temperature outside because, you know, it's halving, but the arc is twice as big. So it's weird. It's really weird. Why is it doing that? So what? That's why we never go beyond 110. Okay, let's fire up the engine and see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to start the engine and see how the temperatures and everything behave. Notice that now the count is slowing down. It's going to match at the end of the 5 minutes. Well, it's less than that, but around 5 minutes is 15.978, which is the outside temperature. So while I prepare I will do off camera, I will prepare the plane for starting, and we will see if it reaches the maximum temperature before starting. I'm going to fill the plane with people, and I'm going to change the oil. I mean, it's psi 30, which is the equivalent of this temperature. So 22. I'm going to top up. And I'm going also to fill the plane with 100 kilos in the back and 200 in the front, and have half of both deposits. Look, tanks. Look how 15.8 is now very slow, so it's going to more or less match the outside temperature. I already primed the first engine, and look at the temperature is slowing down. It's more or less roughly in 16, but it's using a different feeding than this one. Okay, it's not exactly the same. That these two variables, the local of the oil temperature and the engine temperature, they go in different. I mean, this is the engine oil temperature, right? Didn't have the room to have it written, but this is oil as well. Okay, so let's start the first engine. Start with the left. This is where the electric dynamos and everything are. Okay, notice that the needle pressure, which, by the way, which is the, does it say if it is PSI? They don't match one to another. So the pressure of the engine, let me check if it is PSI. We keep it to 1000 RPMs. It says pounds per square inch, PSI. Okay, they are supposedly to have the same reading. I mean, the same unit. So they are similar. If you look at it, 69, 65. This is what the computer is reading. 68, 65. Okay. Let's open the radiators are completely open. Close, open completely. And look at the temperature. The temperature, what is indicated is 20 centigrades, while the engine 1 in the simulator is 100. And this is actually relevant because this oil temperature, what is here indicating in Fahrenheit, is this figure, is the 21 Celsius in Fahrenheit. But 21, by all means, is very, very low temperature. Very low temperature for an engine. 108 should be a more appropriate figure. I understand that the plane is using different measurements, but look at the pressure. The pressure is 62, 65, dancing in between 68. You know, it's in that range. That's correct. This is what is reading. But the simulator understands another completely different one. By the way, I don't know what this one is being affected. Okay, let's start the engine number 2. Notice that the same effects reproduce here. They are using completely different feedings. They don't feed from the same information, but for example, the pressure is more or less what it should read. I understand that different oils are represented here, different viscosity. But one thing that is interesting is the temperature. Remember, this is in Celsius. The needle should be reading, if this is a temperature, this is not the right figure. That would be more appropriate. Maybe different viscosities. So that's why I always thought that these may be, I don't know how to say it in English, a differential. Something that balance this one. So these two should be interlinked. But now I doubt it because all my testing says that, for example, an increase in pressure has nothing to do with the increase in the temperature the simulator is reading. So I'm going to wait until this needle gets 25 approximately, because the pressure here gets a bit higher. And we're going to do a small flight. Let's see how it behaves. It's get up. Another thing that I'm going to do is the Lorby allows me to control variable. I mean, the same as doing, but on the spot. Something that occurs to me right now is I can control also the cold flaps within the simulator. Cold, because I have a button already assigned in my joystick for different planes. Cold flaps, and I can select this variable here, not this one. Cold flap in singular. Sorry. Cold flap. I select it here. I select engine 2. I already selected engine 1. Add. So you see here in these two bars, I don't know if you see it because it's small, I have 100% open the cold flap 1 and 2. You see it? And now close. Let's see if this figure changes according to this. So now I have them closed. It's 15. Engine 1 is 115.303. Let's open them fully and see if it gets affected. Now it increases. I think there is no link in between how in the simulator the cold flaps are and the temperature of both. Okay, I'm closing, and the temperature stables in the left, stables in the right. I'm opening, stables in the left, and stables in the right. I have here fully open within the plane. Okay, now I have temperature in both and pressure is stable in both, around 70 psi. Let's go and move this plane. I keep 1000 RPMs. The pressure is 60, 70, which is within the standards. Manifold to the minimum. So as you can see, the computer as a default is reading stable Celsius temperatures, which are equivalent to what they're supposed to be, 100. This plane though, according to the manual, has oil that works in a lower temperature, like 20 or 25 degrees less. That's what I thought it could be a differential, but that will be the opposite, because it doesn't. When you move the plane, you know what I mean, it gets cooler. The number of the left gets down and it should go up. If that was something you have to subtract from the second number. Notice now that we're moving, the engine temperature in the right is decreasing, which is expected. I'm going to close the virtual cold flaps just in case, but I don't think it does any difference. Okay, let's stay here. So my first idea is the one it's been circulating around, is what I have done is added these two numbers together. That will be 100 and, for example, in Celsius will be 120, and then halve them. So you have a figure around 60 Celsius. So an increase here will affect both. But it doesn't work as expected. Let's see what the problem is. Okay, pressure, let's get RPMs. Get some speed. All flaps are open. We're airborne. Look how the pressure in the left has increased while the virtual pressure didn't. The temperature now is going to rise now because I'm going to close the cold flaps and see what happens. I have close the normal cold flaps, we can add them actually in the thing, but 100 close, sorry, 0, the cold flaps on the plane, not the virtual ones. The virtual one, I'm not going to touch them again. The plane is stable, and the temperatures are stable. They don't seem to be affected. It takes some time because I think this plane is getting the temperature in the inlet. That means the part of the circuit in which the oil gets back to the tank after going through the engine. So it takes a while for the sensor to detect a heat. That's what I think. No, sorry, that's the inlet is when it's going in. So you don't get too cold oil in the system. I have to reread the manual. But that's why I'm doing a video like that, so you can correct me or give me some ideas, things that I can do. Okay, notice now it's very stable, everything. I'm flying it through the, in the book. Yeah, it always should have put electrics and sorry, not this one. Is to undo the altimeter or whatever, but let's leave it for the moment. Okay, let's stay close. The radiator is close. Look at the pressure. It's building. 85 now. And the oil temperature is very steady in 21. But it's 21 Celsius. So it's very strange. It should be around 70 degrees, but it's staying 20. But the thing is, the pressure is affected by this figure, but I don't know, I cannot see how they are related. Because with a 20 degrees Celsius degrees oil, is anything broke? I hear a sound like something was burning. Everything seems alright. Okay, 20. Okay. Let's fly for a while. Going to the stop now. 80, 89, 79, the pressure. Let's go for a while and see what happens. I'll see you in a second. Well, I've been flying for 5-10 minutes with the radiator closes. I added these two local bars. So now when I open the radiators, you can see them there, okay? It comes from 0 for some reason to 1000. So that's all the possibilities. Notice that this temperature is now creeping to 28. And in my experience, once it goes through 25 is when you're starting to have problems, which is very strange, again. Okay, the pressure is still, one is still fine, okay? But now this is creeping. I am flying with the radiators closed. I just lean a bit a lot, the mixture. So I'm going to get more manifold pressure and a bit more RPM, so I'm going to speed the, and I'm flying quite slow because what I want is to break actually the engine to see what happens with the temperatures when such a thing happens. Now the pressure, if you realize, is around 70 psi, which is here in the simulator the figure is stable, but in the plane, it's around 70, 69, which matches what we can see in the indicator. So far, no big deal. The exterior temperature is around 40 Fahrenheit, which is in Celsius, is minus 32, is 8, half, is around 4 degrees. And I'm going to try to break the engines, to burn them. Okay? According to this, the temperature in Fahrenheit is 80 Fahrenheit, which matches more or less this, because 80, let me do the conversion, 80 Fahrenheit is around 26, exactly this. So it's matching what it says here. But again, I don't know where these numbers come from. I've been flying for a while and now it's pics. Okay? So my first idea, as I said, was add these two numbers just to give it, because I know the temperature of this plane should be around 70 Celsius, 75, which is around 165 in Fahrenheit. Okay. If the maximum temperature is 165, which is says the manual, (165) is 73. So that should be the temperature. So I thought maybe, and now I understand why it's halved, because it only uses half the arc of the indicator. It doesn't go beyond 110. That's the maximum, I think. But it's very rare, very strange. So what I was thinking is, maybe you have to add this number to this figure in order to make it more realistic. Okay, because this one plus this one is around 194 plus 25 is 120. So that would be around 60 Fahrenheit. However, it's slightly too short because we're now on the verge of, well, it's 70 psi now. So we are flying within the limits. It's very, I don't know. Notice that we have been flying with the cold flaps completely shut, as you can see here, both virtually and on the plane. So I'm going to lower it down to get to more heat air and try to reproduce this instance in which the engine is burned, which, to be honest, I still... It's so easy to break this plane and it's so difficult when you wanted to do it on purpose. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to start flying low and I'm going to take the gear down to slow myself up, get power and try to burn it on purpose. The lever is shut, 75, we're now 100. Get RPMs maximum. I'm going to drive it as if it was stolen. You see now peaks of 31 in the needle. Look at the needle on the engine 1. Okay, peaks of 28, 27, 29. Yeah, we're reaching there, mate. We're reaching there. More power. Okay, we're going to burn it. We're going to burn it. The pressure is still 60, 70. $31 I saw. Full power, full RPM. I'm really forcing it, I'm really breaking it. Okay, the PSI is going all the way from 60 to 70. The oil pressure. As you can see, in particular situations, if you are getting the right oil and everything is smooth and you open the cold flaps, etc., it's actually a difficult plane to break. $32. Okay, the needle is going up now, but notice that it never goes beyond 100. 110 is the limit it has. by programming. 35 now. I saw 35. I saw 35. The pressure is still 70. So the reading of the pressure is unstable, but it's moving, waving a bit, but it's not doing anything wrong so far. 34. I think the left engine is going to brake first. 35. Let's put mixture completely up. The temperature got now a bit. No, I don't get more power. Do that. What would be is a supercharged engine. 35, 30. Look at the temperature on the oil in the sim is stable at 98 Celsius. How difficult is to brake this plane? So as you can see, before it brakes, the temperature for overstress, okay? The temperature reaches almost 40. Ah, there you go. 40 is getting there. But the pressure is still 65. So you see the oil is too hot by default when it reaches 100. The needle reaches 100, and is when you can tell that your oil is too hot. 40 now in both engines. (42). I have to do more testing with different engines and with different different oils and different temperatures. But look how much it takes. Now you can see pressure below 60, but this is still, the pressure is still in an area which you don't see a problem. Let's see if I will be burning some oil. Well, I don't know if that updates, but according to this, we're not burning much oil. I don't know if I can see the tank oil. I don't know if this is updated with the real figures to change. How much oil, fuel do we have? 70 in the left and 60 in the right. You see 40, and this is not braking. The pressure now is getting into the 50s. And this is 40. So that's what I thought. 40 and 90, 97. So if we combine these two together, this will be around 140. 140 half by 2 is 70. 70 Celsius. Okay. Let's go back to normal. Let's open radiators. Let's not break the engine. Reduce power. Get the gear up. Get some speed. Get some speed. Look at the pressure is now going into here into the 50s. 50s. But we are lowering the RPMs. And now we are recovering, getting the pressure back. 60, 70s, and the temperature is going from 40s back to normal. And slowly we are getting back to normal readings. 38 at 37. But notice that the temperature of the oil never go beyond that 100, 110, which is the maximum that it has in the coding. So now let's stop this. Let's stop the flight and summarize what we have learned with this. So, as you can see, the simulator is giving us a temperature of around 95 and between 85 and 98, more or less, Celsius constant during the flight. And the figure of the needle, it goes beyond 20 Celsius to 40 Celsius. Around 30, 32, 33 is when you start to be worrying. So if we combine the two of them, you have a constant figure of around 70. I mean, the two of them would be 130 Celsius. Okay, how much is 130 Celsius? So 130 Celsius (165), which is the maximum, is 73. 130 Celsius divided by 2 is 65. So I think it's a close figure to the 73. So I thought if I can combine the two of them, so use this formula, open this to 210, for example, maybe have it to 180 to make it slightly more accurate. But anyway, 210. Combine the two of them and then divide it by 2 to give, because I'm adding 2 temperatures, which is the same temperature twice. I will get a similar figure. And also you can get the spike also, although in less intensity, because obviously you are having that figure, the same spike of 10 degrees when the needle temperature is feeding into the system, into the equation. That's what I thought. And that's what I'm trying, and that file that is circulating over there is what it does. It's true that I have to do more testing and see if this actually can represent what is happening, and it gets more realistic, not real, because obviously, as you can see, you can fly perfectly the plane just using what it is and understand it that everything beyond 90 Fahrenheit, which will be 32, which is more or less where you start to be worrying, 32 Celsius is not a realistic figure. No plane behaves like that. But this plane in particular does behave like that. So that's what you have to be aware of. Everything over 90 in the temperature is problematic. So I don't know how to do in order, because I cannot read where this VAR is getting the information from, but you saw in that video that I just made how does it behave, that under pressure. And that was all for now. I will keep doing testing and see if I can find something else in the future. See you soon. I forgot. So what I did in the file that I changed, this is the modified file. Okay, as you can see in the original one, what it does is follow this template. So I remove the template and I wrote this code here, which substitute the code by default. So what I did is I took the unit that is being feed width, sorry, this is the one. I took this is what I rewrote, okay? Wing 42 animation. So I take the variable that is fitting, that the one, remember the one that is moving in between, you know, maximum is 40, approximately, when the oil is burning is around 40. And then I add, this is again reverse notation, you take the two elements and then what you do with them. I take the oil temperature fitted by the simulator, which is a constant, I add the two of them. I apply the scale, which is basically transform the Celsius into Fahrenheit, and they'll halve because I have the two figures. And then add the offset. This is, I added it because this is by default, but the offset is 0, just in case I wanted to add something. And then it's a minimum and maximum. So it uses the two of them, combine them, so I'll have them. I'm now thinking that maybe I should try to give more power to this one. So maybe multiply by 0.6 and this by 0.4 to create a combination of the two in which this one is 40% and this one is sorry, this one is 60 and this is 40. In that situation, when both are at the same level, so for example, when you start up before starting up the engines and the two temperatures more or less have the same value, it will compensate one to another and more or less they indicate the same. And then once you fire up the engine, it will give more power to this one. So if there isn't a spike, because if you realize from being okay to being hot, this one moves from 20 to 40, so it doubles. While this one, it never changes. So in a way, a spike in temperature will be hidden by my formula a little more than with the other one. So I don't know how to compensate it. I'm still thinking of ways of giving a more natural reading, more close to the 75 Celsius or 165 that you have to achieve in the indicator, without jeopardizing the fact that you see that there is a spike in the temperature when it's needed to be seen. So that's what I'm playing with it. Okay, I'm stopping now. I will be thinking and trying to do more experiments and more testing in different hot climates. I'm going to take the plane to Africa. I think today is around 40 Celsius, so I'm going to see there how it behaves. That will be done off camera, but feel free to use my my script or the original one. Get the Access and OS, which is very cheap piece of software. I am posting it almost every day in Flight Simulator forum for the plane, for the Boeing. Contact me through my channel or whatever. Give me your opinion about this. Tell me what you think. I will respond in English or Spanish. Feel free to comment because I want to fix this plane, and the developer Otmar, which I'm starting to be worried because we haven't heard, anyone has heard about him since more or less the release date. So I want to fix this plane. Okay guys, see you soon.